Europe is being forced into a false dilemma. The program again returns to the propaganda's favorite scheme, either realism and concessions or escalation and sanctions. Europe's participation in the settlement is ridiculed, and European values are discredited. The host sarcastically suggests calling the Europeans, let them put their paw under the hammer. Thus, the Kremlin imposes a false dilemma. Either Europe agrees to negotiate with Russia on its terms, or it finds itself powerless and without influence. Preparation for a peace without Ukraine. More and more signals from the Russian propaganda machine point to one thing. Moscow is preparing the ground for a separate peace in which Ukraine is excluded and Europe is humiliated. The simplified picture of strong Putin and rational Trump negotiating without unnecessary persons is a political trap. And those in the West who are ready to discuss the new reality or frozen conflict should remember. Kremlin talk shows are not a dialogue, but a hostile information operation. The only possible path to peace is not in ignoring Ukraine, but in supporting its rights, security, and sovereignty. We were waiting for Trump's speech, which took place at 11 p.m. Moscow time yesterday. Well, nothing sensational was said there, except perhaps one thing. There was a lot of talk yesterday, especially in the liberal media in the West, about Trump setting a preliminary meeting with Putin as a precondition for a meeting with Putin, allegedly. But, in fact, the U.S. president himself denied this. Should Putin meet with Zelensky before meeting with you? This is important, because President Putin spoke rather dismissively about the idea of a meeting with Zelensky this morning. I don't know. I haven't heard anything like that. That is, he doesn't have to agree to a meeting with Zelensky? Not necessarily. They would like to meet with me. I will do everything possible to stop the war. Well, and naturally, the question was asked, what about the sanctions that were promised for today? It's Friday. That's what Trump said. And what exactly do you think? Is he disappointed in? Well, you know, it's hard to answer this question, but it seems to me that, compared to his previous press conferences, Donald Trump has worked on his mistakes, and he has become less talkative. He answers briefly, carefully. But this is perhaps the only thing that can be latched on. Russia is waging a war against Ukraine, against our independence, which is the embodiment of the independence of all European countries, so the format of the leaders' meeting should be trilateral. We have already discussed in detail several bilateral formats. One, trilateral and all other options. I am grateful to President Trump for his openness in finding effective solutions. We in Ukraine are confident that this war can be ended with long-term peace, but all steps must be carefully calibrated to lead to this goal. So Zelensky is already dictating how we should meet with Trump. Well, he has the right to wish, but it is unlikely to be the way he wants. Why? The fact is that Zelensky gave the command, and two theses were dispersed. This is the first thesis, that there will be a trilateral meeting. The second thesis is that Putin should meet with Zelensky before meeting with Trump. Well, Trump himself gave a clear answer that this is all nonsense and so on. Well, you know, this is an attempt, when they are shoeing a horse, to try to put his paw under this option for the green toad. And the main thesis is already sounding that the Ukrainian issue will be resolved without this gang. Why? Because it is incapable of negotiations and illegitimate, and a certain aspect must be constantly made for this assessment.